Have you ever felt that the freedom you crave has a price no one ever told you about? Emma was on the verge of getting everything she ever dreamed of: fame, the stage, applause. And yet, there was one man who held her captive, not with visible chains, but with the most dangerous passion she had ever known. What if you could have everything you want, but the most intense love of your life required an impossible sacrifice? In this video, you will dive into a dark romance where every choice is a test of courage. Every gesture hides pain, desire, and secrets, and where freedom and forbidden passion meet at a point that's impossible to ignore. Get ready to discover what it really means to be free while still belonging to someone.
Emma never imagined freedom could taste so bittersweet. When Anthony told her she could go, her heart raced, but each beat carried the weight of years of fear, dangerous passion, and secrets whispered in the dark. It was a dark romance that burned in her veins, and even though she knew she could finally escape, something inside her hesitated. The secret love she held for him seemed to contradict every step she took toward freedom, as if every fiber of her being was torn between the desire to run and the fear of losing herself. He, with eyes like tempered steel and broken promises, explained that Emma's brother was safe, out of reach of any threat. The revelation brought relief, but also an unexpected pain. She finally had a choice, and that choice required sacrificing the man who had been both her prison and her passion. Anthony was the alpha male of the underworld, master of secrets and territories, but also master of her heart, even if it was an impossible love. The paradox of their forbidden love tore at her mind, turning every decision into an emotional minefield. Emma looked at him, trying to decipher the fine line between liberation and damnation. Every gesture, every word carried the ambiguity of a forbidden romance. She could go, but the price was invisible, painful, and cruel. In every memory of the past, in the stolen kisses and nights of tension, she realized that Anthony was a part of her, indissoluble and devastating. The agony of choosing made every step heavier, every breath more difficult. But there was something irresistible in that risk, in the love triangle between freedom, duty, and desire. She knew, almost instinctively, that freedom wouldn't be his absence, but the presence of her own courage. Anthony had never simply offered a safe path. Through pain and tension, he had always taught her that true strength is born from vulnerability. Like a silent master of a real dark romance, he showed her that love and fear can coexist, and that sometimes dangerous passion demands sacrifice. The metaphor of the prison and the invisible key became clear. Emma's every decision wasn't just shaping her destiny, but theirs as well. Emma's dilemma was more than just running or staying. It was learning to walk with the weight of the secret love that consumed her. Every look from Anthony seemed to bind her soul with chains of desire, and yet there was a promise of freedom, distant, almost unattainable. This contrast between power and vulnerability, between dominance and respect, strengthened the narrative of an impossible romance, full of nuance. It was the pain that taught, the passion that burned, and the awareness that no step would be simple. And as Emma felt the scent of the night air and the promise of independence, her mind was already calculating the price of what was to come. Freedom would require courage, facing old fears and confronting the very essence of what it was to be in love with someone as dangerous as he was irresistible. Every thought, every memory, every desire to get away still carried the specter of Anthony, a reminder that even in the most luminous moments, the dark romance and the forbidden love would never completely disappear. And it is on this threshold that the story prepares to move forward. 6 months had passed, and Emma was thriving on the stages of New York, each performance a testament to her strength and the secret passion that still burned within her. The audience applauded her, but she felt as if there was an invisible someone watching her every move, every subtle smile. It was as if Anthony, even from a distance, was right there, present in details no one else could notice. The contrast between her public success and the silent pain of his absence turned every victory into a dark romance filled with emotional tension. The flowers started to arrive, always different, always impossible. White lilies, rare orchids, a black tulip sent without a signature. Emma understood the message without needing words. He was present, invisible, controlling the world in his own way. Each flower was a symbol of an inevitable connection, of a secret love that defied rules, a silent pact between her freedom and his possession. The metaphor of his invisible presence created a bond she couldn't break, even if she wanted to. During these months, Anthony continued to operate in the underworld, ruling territories and maintaining his reputation as an alpha male, but he never touched other women. The love triangle Emma carried was, in a way, just between her and him, a constant tension between her desire to leave and the certainty that someone was dominating her heart with cruel perfection. This combination of pain, vulnerability, and forbidden love made every silent message and every veiled gesture so full of intensity that it was impossible to ignore. Emma began to realize that the separation not only strengthened her art, but also deepened the power of the forbidden romance they shared. Every step on stage was a dance between passion and pain, memory and hope. The audience saw only technical perfection, but she was dancing for him, for the shadow watching her, for the secret love that could never be said out loud. It was a game of power, control, and freedom where every movement carried a story of pain and triumph. The flowers served as a language only they understood. Emma smiled at each delivery, feeling consumed by the paradox, free in the world, yet tied to someone who was invisibly shaping her. The vulnerability of her heart contrasted with the strength of her artistic career, creating a profound, dark romance where dangerous passion wasn't just a risk, but a vital necessity. Every detail reinforced the forbidden love and the love triangle, keeping her mind and emotions in a constant state of tension. And so, 6 months apart became a silent dance of power and desire. Emma's life expanded, and her fame grew, but the specter of Anthony remained invisible and ever-present, reminding her that even in freedom, their bond was unbreakable. Each flower, each stolen glance, each unspoken thought reinforced the impossible love, the dangerous passion, and the vulnerability that made them more intense and irresistible. And it is on this invisible thread that the story moves toward a reunion.
The theater was full, the lights reflecting in Emma's eyes as she walked onto the stage. Every movement was calculated, but it carried the weight of months of separation, of dangerous passion, and the secret love that burned in her chest. She knew someone was watching her, and it wasn't the regular audience. Anthony was there, invisible as ever, yet dominant in every inch of her being. It was a dark romance where vulnerability blended with strength, turning every gesture into a silent declaration. As the music swelled, Emma felt every note vibrate within her, a reminder of the days of rehearsal, the nights of tension, and the stolen kisses that would never be repeated. The forbidden love was manifest in every spin, every jump, as the love triangle between desire, freedom, and loyalty weighed on her like a silent shadow. The stage became an arena where passion and pain danced together, and every look she cast to the audience hid a secret message meant for Anthony. And then the moment came. His eyes met hers, and everything around them disappeared. The world, the audience, the music,
Nothing mattered but that silent meeting. His presence was both a prison and freedom, a paradox that made her heart race. Emma understood that even separated, their bond could never be broken. Every step she took was a reflection of their forbidden romance, a dance of impossible love that defied all the rules of the real world. After the last note, the applause echoed like thunder, but she only had eyes for him. The tension between freedom and domination, between desire and fear, had reached its peak. Anthony approached, every step calculated, every gesture carrying the intensity of months of waiting and the vulnerability they both shared. It was the anticipation of the blood pact, the dark romance reaching its most visceral point, where dangerous passion became inevitable and irresistible. When he finally extended his hand, Emma felt both warmth and danger at the same time. The blood pact wasn't just symbolic. It was more eternal than any marriage, more intense than any declaration of love. Adrenaline ran through both their veins, and the room seemed to melt around them. Every gesture, every breath, every touch carried the mark of a forbidden romance that defied the world and all of life's imposed rules, binding them inseparably. And even after their hands met, when the blood bound them and sealed the pact, they remained aware that nothing would be simple from that point on. The dark romance continued, but now with the certainty that dangerous passion and secret love tied them together more strongly than any barrier. Every look, every movement, every silence became a promise and a warning. They were bound, body and soul, and no obstacle could extinguish the fire they shared. And it's with this pact that the story prepares to evolve. The blood contact between Emma and Anthony wasn't just symbolic. It was visceral, eternal, and deeper than any spoken word or vow. Each mixing drop carried a promise of loyalty and the intensity of a dark romance that burned in their bones. It was a gesture of secret love and dangerous passion, where their shared vulnerability became a source of strength. The feeling that they were bound by something unbreakable made Emma's heart race, a reminder that some connections transcend time. Anthony watched her every reaction, every tremor, every held breath. The blood was more than a contract. It was proof that their forbidden love had real consequences, uniting them in both pain and desire. It was the physical manifestation of a love triangle that included freedom, danger, and the inevitability of a secret love. Emma felt the intensity pulsing in her veins, knowing that from that point on, neither of them could deny the bond they had sealed. Every movement Anthony made as he pressed her hand against the blade was calculated, yet full of care. He was the alpha male, yes, but he also knew the value of vulnerability in a dark romance. The gesture transformed the pain into something almost sacred, a bridge between passion and respect, where their forbidden love became tangible. Emma felt the energy of the pact run through her body, a mix of ecstasy, fear, and desire that only intensified their story. The metaphor of blood as a contract also taught them something about impossible love. Some bonds don't need rituals or witnesses to exist. They are recognized by the body, the heart, and the soul. Emma realized that every beat of her heart mirrored the rhythm of that silent pact, which turned pain into power and vulnerability into strength. Their forbidden romance, secret love, and dangerous passion weren't just emotions, they were unwritten rules that would govern every future choice. The metallic scent in the air, the warm feeling on their hands, and the intensity of Anthony's gaze made Emma understand that right there, in that simple, brutal gesture, lay the essence of a dark romance. It was more than a union, it was an affirmation that every risk, Every decision and every shared moment of pain made them indestructible. The metaphor extended beyond the blood. Freedom and love would always carry the weight of choice, and neither of them could run from that. And even after a few seconds, when the blood had already sealed the pact, they both remained aware that this connection had transformed them. Every gesture, every silence, and every look carried the memory of what they had done, reinforcing their forbidden love and the intensity of a forbidden romance that no one could fully understand. This powerful analogy was shaping the next chapter of their story, where dangerous passion and pain intertwined to prepare them for an inevitable reunion. Even from a distance, Anthony was in every corner of Emma's life like a silent specter. Every applause, every look from the audience seemed to be filled with his presence, invisible yet omnipresent. It was proof that an alpha male can dominate without touching, and that their forbidden love didn't need words to exist. The tension between freedom and domination created a palpable dark romance, and Emma's heart raced every time she imagined him watching her, controlling her life from afar. The enigmatic flowers that arrived were the clearest symbol of this invisible presence. Lilies, orchids, a black tulip. Each delivery was a silent declaration of dangerous passion and a love triangle. Emma understood that their forbidden romance would transcend any distance, and that the vulnerability she felt upon seeing them was a constant reminder that Anthony had power over her, even when he was far away. Each flower was a metaphor for an inevitable connection. Emma started to realize how this tension was shaping her own strength. With every performance, every step on stage, she felt the duality of secret love and pain. The freedom to dance with applause and recognition, but the constant reminder of who was truly watching. The dark romance pulsed in every gesture, and dangerous passion turned vulnerability into creative energy. It was as if every movement was a letter sent to Anthony, a silent dialogue of desire and defiance. And even without touching, Anthony controlled the rhythm of her life. Every decision Emma made carried the weight of their forbidden romance, pain, and invisible tension. The feeling of being constantly observed made her heart race, but it also reminded her of her own strength. This paradox between freedom and a secret bond reinforced the intensity of their impossible love, creating a narrative where every moment became a test of control, desire, and emotional resilience. His invisible presence was both a punishment and a reward. Emma felt that despite the distance, he was connected to her every moment, and that the love triangle between freedom, passion, and emotional submission could never be broken. The constant tension turned every day into a silent battlefield where vulnerability and power alternated, and forbidden love became the driving force of her entire life. Every breath carried his memory, intense and inevitable. And so, even 6 months later, Anthony's invisible presence continued to shape Emma's every victory and defeat. Each gesture, every glance, and every flower delivery reinforced the dark romance, the dangerous passion, and the secret love that bound them. The tension was far from over, and she knew the inevitable reunion would bring even more intense consequences, preparing the ground for the blood pact to become even more visceral and irrevocable. The stage had never felt so big, nor the light so heavy. Emma felt every inch of the floorboards vibrating beneath her feet, as if they were breathing with her. The audience only saw her perfect dance, but every movement carried years of pain, sacrifice, and forbidden passion. Every pirouette was a silent cry for freedom, every leap a declaration that she would no longer be a prisoner to anyone. Adrenaline surged as the music reached its climax. She felt Anthony's presence like a shadow at the edge of her consciousness, not visible, but real, demanding, and impossible to ignore. Unlike before, it wasn't about control or domination. It was recognition, a nonverbal pact between two hearts scarred by pain and desire. The tension of their separation transformed every movement into a poem of resistance. As her body spun and fell into a dramatic finish, Emma realized the victory wasn't just about the stage, but about her own fear. The pain of separation, the secret romance, the sacrifices, everything condensed into that one instant of applause and breathless gasps. It was proof that dangerous passion could coexist with freedom, and that vulnerability, when embraced, turned into a strength that no one could steal. Among the applause, something caught her attention, a discreet envelope in her dressing room, with no flowers this time, a simple note with a few words but heavy with meaning. "You are mine, even when you are free." Emma smiled with irony and pain. Her victory on stage and his presence were two distinct worlds, yet they were deeply intertwined. Every one of her triumphs was tempered by the memory that the dark romance that bound them would never fade. The energy of the crowd faded, but Emma continued to dance for herself, for the memory of every sacrifice and forbidden passion she had endured. She didn't need public recognition. The stage was just the setting for her internal transformation. The love triangle of freedom, desire, and emotional connection made every gesture intense, while their secret love continued to challenge her every decision. In the silence that followed the final applause, Emma felt the strength of the silent pact that united them. The stage might be empty, but she knew that every choice, every sacrifice, and every victory carried the signature of the dark romance they were living. The victory didn't erase the past or diminish the intensity of their dangerous passion, but it paved the way for their inevitable reunion, preparing the climax of the blood pact and their eternal bond. The envelopes and flowers that arrived for Emma were more than just gestures. They were coded messages from Anthony. White lilies to remind her of the purity he couldn't touch, rare orchids to show that his interest was unique and intense, and a black tulip, a surprise from another continent, as a metaphor for how their dangerous passion transcended time and space. Each delivery reinforced their forbidden love, and the love triangle of desire, freedom, and a secret connection became even more evident. Emma learned to read each petal as a word, each scent as a declaration. There were no long letters or obvious words, but the power of the gesture spoke more than any conversation could. It was dark romance in action, a silent communication that left her both vulnerable and thrilled. The feeling of being watched, even from a distance, turned every day into a dance between courage and fear, passion and pain. Sending the flowers also functioned as a metaphor for the pact that still bound them. While she conquered the world on stage, he remained in the underworld, invisible and dominant, never touching another woman. The connection between them grew more intense the more restricted it became. And each delivery reinforced that, even in a forbidden romance, an invisible presence could simultaneously control, inspire, and challenge her. One night, Emma opened an envelope containing only a black orchid with a silk thread tied around the stem. The analogy was clear. Her freedom was his, and the desire they felt for each other remained indissoluble. The love triangle of emotions, love, hatred, and fear, intensified, a reminder that nothing in real life is simple. Each of his gestures reinforced the emotional vulnerability and tension, preparing the way for their inevitable reunion. The flowers became almost a ritual, small pieces of evidence that their bond was deeper than contracts or empty promises. Emma felt his presence in the softness of each petal and in the choice of every species and color. It was the communication of an alpha male who knew the power of silent suggestion, a dark romance that manifested in the unspoken parts of life, in the space between the freedom she had won and the secret love that still burned. Even when fame and the public seemed to dominate her life, Emma knew that every flower was a reminder of Anthony, of their pact and of the dangerous passion that united them. The message of the flowers was clear. His invisible presence was inevitable, and their dark romance would continue, preparing the ground for their reunion that would culminate in the blood pact, making their connection more visceral, more eternal, and impossible to ignore. The theater was silent when Emma entered, each step echoing on the floor as if the entire universe were holding its breath. Anthony was there, in the last balcony, invisible to others, but impossible to ignore. The forbidden love between them burned in the air, a dark romance that couldn't be denied. And every look they exchanged was a silent promise that nothing in the world could break the bond that separation had only strengthened. When the music began, Emma danced as if every movement were a message of pain and desire, every leap a reminder of the love triangle that bound them: freedom, dangerous passion, and secret loyalty. Anthony watched her, not to control, but to recognize the strength that their forbidden romance had awakened in her. The tension was electric, visceral, and the audience was merely a backdrop for a reunion no one else could perceive. At the end of the performance, the applause echoed like thunder, but Emma only had eyes for him. Anthony came down to the dressing room, his alpha male presence almost tangible, dominating the space without needing words. The reunion didn't need dialogue. Their shared vulnerability and desire spoke for them, and the intensity of their dark romance became almost palpable in the air. Now that you've delved into this dark romance, you've realized how pain and vulnerability can transform into strength, and how forbidden love can shape life-changing decisions. Imagine applying this courage to your own life, facing what holds you back, fighting for what you desire, and choosing even when everything seems impossible. What price would you pay for your freedom or the passion you can't ignore? Comment below. Would you dare to follow your heart, even knowing the world might try to separate you from what you desire most? And if you want to continue exploring stories that teach about desire, power, and impossible choices, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because each video is one step closer to understanding the limits between love, sacrifice, and freedom.